Okay, oops, sorry. Okay, welcome everyone to the Engineering Student Internship and Research Panel. Thank you all for joining us, and a big thank you to all of our panelists for being here and taking time out of their busy schedules to be here. So my name is Lorena. I'm a fifth year civil engineering major, and I'm also one of the engineering peer academic advisors. I'm here with the three other peer advisors, Numair, Lily, and Maya. Numair and Lily are actually on the panel, so I'll let them introduce themselves in a moment, but I'll hand it off to Maya so that she can chime in and say hello.
Hi, everybody. My name is Maya. I'm a third year aerospace engineering student, and I'm happy to see all of you here.
Thank you. So we're going to get started with some introductions. If our panelists could please say their name, year, major, and their internship or research position, that would be great. And we can go ahead and go in this order that's on the screen.
Awesome. Hello, my name is Lily. I am a fourth year mechanical engineering major with a minor in biomedical engineering, and my research revolves around engineering education.
Hello, my name is Jonathan. I'm a fourth year civil engineering major. I don't have a research experience, but I do have an internship experience. I'm currently interning at Tetra Tech as a transportation and site development intern.
Hi everyone, my name is Sarah Han. I am a fourth year chemical engineering major. I'm currently a systems engineering intern at a company called Caltrol in Irvine, and I'm also in a CPE professor's lab as an undergraduate researcher.
Hi everyone, my name is Numair. I'm a fourth year computer science and engineering major, and I also did not have any research position, but I interned at Amazon last summer as a software engineering intern.
Thank you so much. We are going to move on to the questions that we prepared, and then after we're going to leave some time for an audience Q&A. Okay, so our first question is, why did you choose an internship or research position instead of the other? And did choosing research affect your post-graduation decisions? Anyone can go ahead and go.
I guess I can go ahead and start. Prior to this year, I guess about a year ago, I wanted to do an internship for the summer to spend time to get some experience while school wasn't going on, so that for after I graduate that I would have a little bit of experience to bring to the career onwards, right? So I was basically applying to a bunch of places, and I actually did not expect to get the Amazon internship offer because I personally thought I didn't really do that well on their coding assessment. But to my surprise, I ended up getting an interview, and I really enjoyed the interview process actually, which is a little surprising because, you know, usually these things can be a little nerve-wracking, but I actually, it was really nice. I really enjoyed talking to my interviewer, and it just seemed like the right fit at the time when I was considering the different offers as well. So something to consider when you're applying to internships is like to see what the job rec is and see like what skills that you learned in school and like how you can apply whatever knowledge you had before. So basically, for the Amazon offer, they talked about like if you have experience with data structures or algorithms, this would be a good position for you. So I knew that I had prior experience with courses like with data structures and algorithms. So I thought that I'd probably be a good fit for this internship. So that's how I made my decision that I wanted to do that internship offer in particular.
I can go next. So I transferred into UCI, and when I did, I only had experience as as a tutor, and so I immediately knew that I had to like get something under my belt that was engineering related, and so I another research lab, and I will say that I found that I really love research, and it really motivated me to choose grad school. after I graduate. So yeah, I would say that like I kind of found my passion in doing research, and that kind of led me to whatever's coming next.
I can speak next. I chose my internship because I think it's because our research opportunity for civil engineering specifically is very skewed, and it's just the environment that I was in. By joining a club called AAC, I was able to make a lot of professional developments and connections, and from that, it was very natural for me to go into internship rather than like a research position. And because of my internship position, I actually stopped thinking about grad school. That's because first is because it's money. Like we have to, think like we have to think about the reality, right? Like grad school is great, but it does cost a lot of money. And just doing the internship and seeing how much I learned at the job was really surprising to me. And that's why I kind of stopped thinking about not graduating, but grad school. Yeah.
That's very interesting. So for me, I'm a first generation college student, so I didn't understand the concept of like the timeline of when to start applying to internships. So once I heard everyone like revealing on LinkedIn, like, hey, I just got my internship position, I was like, oh, you're supposed to do that now? Like, what? That's crazy. Years national conference, talked to a recruiter at Purdue, and she kind of opened my eyes to understand the field of engineering education, which is what I did my research in. And she was very thorough about their program and spoke about their summer undergraduate research program, which I took advantage of. And I emailed a bunch of professors. I was like, hey, I'm interested in this topic, specifically diversity and inclusion. And I was super lucky. I got 2 responses. One was a rejection being like, hey, sorry, I don't have room in my lab. But it was just that one person, that one PI who was like, my undergrad is currently in China, different time zone. She can't really work on our lab anymore. We have an open spot. Do you want to start in January? And I was like, oh, cool, let's go. So that's how I even got into like the research position, and it kind of worked out where I ended up really liking it. My research topic was on how internships and co-ops influence students' identity formation. So I will be published soon, so y'all can read that soon. And that definitely influenced my research topics, and my research kind of influenced my decision for postgrad. I recently got accepted into 2 graduate programs, so I'm going to pursue a PhD in engineering education and hopefully go and become a professor. So yeah, definitely not going into industry.
So for the next question, we're wondering, how did you get your current internship or research position, where you found it, and how you got connected with the hiring manager?
I can start. So my internship I got through Handshake. I kind of panic applied a couple months ago, just like everywhere. And I ended up hearing back from my now supervisor, and we had an interview. And then I met with the director or whatever, and turned into an internship. My research position, I basically emailed like 10 professors, got rejected from like each one because they had no space in their lab. But one professor referred me to another professor who had space in his lab, and I joined his lab. So just cold emails, basically.
I'm on the same boat. Cold emails, the power of them. Sometimes you just have to bulk send emails and tailor it to the individual and their like research, or let's say like a certain position, and show that you're interested. And a lot of the times just showing that you did your research, you know what you're talking about, you know what you want, comes out very confident and shows that you know what you want to go into, and you are very interested in like a certain position. So definitely cold email. Don't be afraid of it. And yeah, for me, I learned about my research position through that career fair. I was just stumbling upon it at a national conference. So things kind of just lined up in that way.
Yeah, I can go next. I actually applied to probably over 30 different companies for my internships. Like starting from second year all the way to my like third year before I got my internship, I only heard back from 2 companies. So it was really hard, but in that process, I obviously went to career fairs that AC and Kai Epsilon hold, and I think Handshake, and there's like 2 more like websites that has those job, what is it, job notifications, right? And I also, there's a lot of networking that had to be involved. So I think I went to 3 different career fairs and probably went to all the companies like over and over again. So they will actually like recognize my face at the end. And for my Tetra Tech internship, it was also a career fair. And I also had someone I knew working there as well. So I feel like it was just more of my personal connection plus the professional connection that I try to have with the professionals. And yeah, basically it was all about networking for me.
So similar to Jonathan, I actually applied to a lot of internships during my second and third year. I even lost count. I don't know, like probably less than 100, but like pretty close at least. And I also didn't really hear back from a lot of positions. Like the worst part about like applying to different internships or jobs is sometimes they just don't even give you a reply, and you have to be like prepared for that, right? Like a lot of the time that like maybe they had a job rec open, but there's like multiple reasons why they might no longer have it open, right? So I applied to many positions and I got rejected by a lot of positions, and I did get maybe 2 or 3 interviews at some point. And I eventually only got 1 opportunity, so I took that, and it was a great opportunity. So I'm really grateful for that. Handshake, LinkedIn. There's a lot of different ways to Google like these different job openings. I think the Amazon one actually got linked to me by a friend. So just like you just have to be on the lookout. You have to be proactive about it. And it's a numbers game. It really is a numbers game. So just like don't be afraid or discouraged by like a couple of rejections. Just keep churning out the numbers, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, thank you guys. Our next question is, how did you tailor your resume for your position? Do you guys have any tips, or what do you think makes an applicant stand out?
I can start. I first try to just stack up my resume with leadership positions, like good GPA and scholarships. I mean, those do stand out to the recruiters. Also, when you're trying to apply for a company, you should go into their website and see like what they do and like their core values, and really tailor your resume towards what they want so that they actually will read. And also one reason that my boss told me that I like really stood out from the other applicants was making a website of, it was a portfolio website of all my past works. So I saved every work I did from my freshman year to my third year, which is when I got the position. And when he already had the interview and was thinking about who to pick, because he had the access to my website, he could go back and look at my work, and that was something that really stood out for me.
I think I can go next. kind of piggybacking off what Jonathan said about like just tailoring your resume to the job. So basically my recipe for tailoring resumes like that is I basically have this big template of all the experience that I have in total, right? To be honest, I don't actually think I have that much experience, but like there's different types of positions. And since I'm a CSE major, I can go in either like the computer science or in the computer engineering route. So I have different projects from my classes or different experience outside of my classes for each of the fields. So based on like whatever I'm applying for, I'll condense it to whatever best matches on the position that I'm applying for. So I basically just read like the job rec and try to match each of the points with, like, say they're looking for experience in this topic, then I make sure that I have like a project or some experience related to that topic listed like as a bullet. And that's kind of how I did it. I don't think I'm perfect when it comes to like resume help, and there's different resources like on campus as well as like the division of career pathways for resumes. And then like a lot of people have different like a different method to how they want to tailor their resume. I would just recommend like trying to do research about the company you're applying for and see like what they really are looking for when you're writing a resume. Yeah.
I think sometimes if you have the time and the energy to write a cover letter, that's definitely a way to highlight your experience too. If you don't feel comfortable like putting on class projects on your resume, then you can highlight that in your cover letter and maybe talk about like what you did specifically for that position or that project. And it's a really great way to kind of like tailor your like non-industry experience to the job position and kind of apply those things to what the company is looking for.
So for me, one strategy I really like to use is having a spreadsheet or just like a document where I dump everything I've ever done or been involved in and have like descriptors there. And then when it comes to tailoring your resume, I go look at this massive like document and pick and choose what actually applies to the position. And that has come in handy because sometimes you forget like, oh, I ended up doing this project for this class. What was it about again? Or you forget like, oh, right, I was involved in this my freshman year and this is how it led me to this other position, or this is what motivated me to go into this field. So definitely use that. I also have a brag packet where I kind of list a little bit more about who I am and what I value and what my morals are and like how that translates into what I want to pursue. So that really helped with the cover letters. And I think that also helped with like getting letters of rec if you choose to do like research. That sometimes does help as well.
All right, going to the next question, more about the interview process for your research/internship. What questions were asked during the interview process and how did you prepare?
So for my internship in the interview, I don't even remember, it was like a month ago, but they basically just asked about your experience, why you would want to work there. Kind of like the basic, tell us about yourself kind of questions. I think that one really great tip that I didn't know before I started applying was before you interview, like thoroughly research the company and their website. A lot of times when they ask you a question, they're kind of looking for something specific and you can find that on their website a lot of the times. So definitely look into their website. Yeah, and also look at your interviewers' LinkedIn pages, look at their background. They'll also get a notification that you looked at their profile, which kind of reflects good on you. So that's another tip that I learned recently.
I can go next. So I think the interviews will depend on like what company you're applying for or what type of company you're applying for. So I applied for two different kinds of companies. a software development kind of company and like a computer engineering related company, right? So for my more CS side, one recommendation I would have for technical problems is leak code. I know if you're a CS major or if you've done CS related stuff, a lot of people will bring this one up as like something to use to practice for like interview questions, whether it's an internship or a full-time position. So basically a lot of CS questions, they have like a different prompt or like a different type of problem that you need to solve. And leak code is a really good preparation. Actually for my Amazon interview, one of the questions I was at, like the technical question I was asked was directly found on leak code. So it was like one-to-one. So definitely use that as like a way to prepare for the technical side. As for like the other types of questions, right? I think what Sarah said was definitely helpful because for Amazon in particular, they have something, I think, oh God, I think they're called leadership. Of your like behavioral question answers, that's like a huge plus because then they see that you're like you did the due diligence to like research what their company is about, what they're looking for their teams. Yeah, and just in general, being able to draw from your prior experience and show how you'd be a good fit for their company is how I would like recommend preparing for that type of question. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, for civils, they don't really expect you to know much about, like engineering in general. So there aren't like much, tests that they do for an internship. They're interviewing you just so that they can know who you are and how you can fit into the team well and how you can, merge into the team and bring out a good result together. So during my interview, I really tried my best to kind of write down anything they say. So my future. So instead of just listening to you saying like, oh, that's cool, instead I was writing down notes on the terms that I didn't recognize or things that I did recognize and was more interesting, and I would ask him those questions back to him, and those really helped just continue the conversation as well, so that it's not really like they ask you a question and then you answer. You have to make your interview more like a conversation with someone. So yeah, I mean that's my experience.
So this is like the research version of that question. So how did you prepare for the informational meetings with the professor? Do you have any tips, or did you have to prepare like any questions?
Okay, I'm like, this was targeted to me. So I ended up doing a couple of informational interviews with the professors, asking about what their research topic was, what was their funding opportunity for me, what was the data they already had that I could potentially use, especially because I was pursuing a summer undergraduate research fellowship. It was like a 10-week intensive program. So a lot of it was like, I can't really conduct my own research and go through that part of the methodology. I had to use data that was already there and work with it to analyze it. So there were a lot of questions like that I ended up asking my professor. And additionally, because the research was related to diversity and inclusion, we ended up talking a little bit more about my involvements with the Society of Women Engineers and my personal story, especially since the topic was like identity formation of undergraduate engineering majors. So a lot had to do with stories and asking questions about that and getting to know the methods behind how they got and acquired all their data. In terms of preparing for the informational interviews, I did a lot of research on my PI's lab. So there was a lot of like cyber stalking in like the best way possible, and like LinkedIn and looking at past publications, taking notes, asking questions about what her past research was, and then suggesting ideas of what I could potentially pursue in the future and what my research interests were. So that mostly took up all of our time, just having that conversation and knowing that they're not only looking at you to see like your personality, but you're also looking at them to see what their lab is like and what their mentorship style is. So it goes two ways.
All right, moving right along. Another question, what was a typical day like during your internship or research position?
I can start this one off. So for me, my research ended up happening throughout the pandemic. So I was home and there was a lot of work-life balance that needed to be kind of reinstated into my life because my desk was in my room and I just like wake up, get ready, go straight to my desk and do research and analyze data. And because my research revolves around analyzing people's stories and looking at interviews and seeing how people's experiences throughout their programs influenced how they thought about themselves as engineers. There was a lot of like digesting lots of information and lots of people's stories and just like decoding everything and coding it into something that was useful for like the paper I was writing. So that tended to take up most of my time. And then once it hit that 5 o'clock mark, my graduate mentor would be like, shut down your computer, stop working, you're off like hours. So definitely a lot of like reassurance from my PIs being like, hey, work-life balance, implement that. But a lot of screen time from 9 to 5 usually. So yeah.
Yeah, I will say work-life balance is it's really important, and it's also really, really hard to find like the balance that works for you. So like right now I'm working, I'm doing research and taking classes. So that's basically just my entire life now. But I guess going to work, I work remote, so it is just getting up and getting out of bed and walking like 5 steps to my desk and logging into work. Right now it's just training. So that's really just it, just watching videos and things like that. For research, I go to lab 2 days a week. I meet with the grad student that I work with on his project. And we just kind of have a cycle of synthesizing whatever we're making, and then what is the word? Like isolating that product, testing it, and then starting over with a new synthesis. And so it's just a constant cycle of like a week and a half. So that's pretty repetitive, but we do something different every time and it comes out different every time. So it's pretty fun too.
For me, it wasn't that complicated. Like I worked remotely as well for the majority of my internship. So it was just the typical 9 to 5. I'd just wake up. Usually I'd have like a little bit of like, I'd have like an hour in the beginning just to chill, like log on, look at my work, and see what I want to like accomplish during the day or what I want to talk about in my meeting. For CS related companies, we have this thing called oh god, it's called stand-ups. It's been a few months. I think they're stand-ups. So it's basically like a 15-minute meeting where you basically you go through your entire team and you explain like what happened yesterday, if you're blocked on anything, what are you going to be accomplishing today. So that was, I guess, the thing to look forward for in the day, as like something to set goals for myself, right? And the day-to-day just involved with that, meeting with my mentor who would help me work on my internship project. And yeah, just working 9 to 5. Towards the end, it was a little bit more than 9 to 5 sometimes when I was crunching to try to finish my work, you know. So it's definitely not like, nobody's gonna be like, oh, you should work more than 9 to 5, or like, you know, like nobody's forcing you. It's kind of like it's on you, like after you graduate, like when you're working, to like take initiative and to do your work and like show that you're proactive and that so that was basically like my internship experience. It was a little bit stressful at times because we did have like I only was able to intern for 2.5 months, so I did have like other than that, I think it was a really, really great experience. So
I guess my internship experience can be kind of unique because mine was fully in person. So, I will have to wake up, get dressed, get something to eat, and then drive to my work. But when I go into work, I will usually talk to my boss first. So, oh wait, no, I'll actually check my email first, my Outlook email. And, there's a bunch of emails that stacks up and kind of talks about like a few updates, what I have to work on. So I would write down all of those in my like small notebook, and I'll go to my boss and kind of go over every single task that I'm going to do today. So, and then you just work. Like working is probably the same for everyone. But for civil, something, special about civil is you're not just at your cubicle. We sometimes have site visits. So we will actually go on to a undeveloped site and kind of look over the surroundings and kind of do your creative thinking on like, oh, what are we going to build here? What are we going to implement something new here? So that was something, I guess, different for my internship.
Okay, so our next question is, what skills gained from your classes did you apply in your position?
I guess I can go first on this one. So honestly, there are things that you can get from your classes to apply to your job, but working, at least for me, was an entirely different world. Like you're basically starting from scratch, like in terms like when you start working in the industry, whatever industry that you're working in, like the skills and the things that you have to develop is like you're learning in a different school. Basically, the skills you need are a little bit different. How I would like put it is like maybe in college or in classes, we're learning like what numbers are and like how numbers work. And in like my internship, I was like actually doing like arithmetic, like I was using the numbers. So they're like basically the different skills in my classes felt like different tools. But then like when I actually had to work for my position, I feel like I was like, it's actually mind blowing. Like you realize how much you don't know once you start working because you're completely new. That's why like you come in as like entry level, right? Whether it's your first internship or your first job. So I would say actually I learned way more skills about like the industry I worked in while like from the internship rather than like skills that I brought in. No, though obviously like the skills that you bring in is like school does prepare you with like the mindset and like obviously the basics, the fundamentals. So
Yeah, I completely agree. Like the mindset, some critical thinkings that you have to do in class, those definitely can apply to your jobs. So yeah, school really teach you that theoretical stuff, right? And like the practical and actual, like the technical side of the learning doesn't really come until like your job, basically. But for civil, especially, like we do use a lot of programs, such as AutoCAD, what else, like APANet, like MATLAB, like those technical skills that they teach you in class are actually very useful. And yeah, I had to use AutoCAD like almost every day at work. So yeah.
Yeah, just kind of like adding on to that. I think that as students, we put a lot of weight into how well we do in our classes. But but I don't think it's necessarily about getting the right answer. I think it's about developing the way you solve the problem. And so that's kind of what you gain from your classes. And then when you go out into industry, into a job, then you're kind of using that mindset of how to solve a problem and then actually solving problems. But you're never going to get a problem like you do in your midterm. And the skills and the knowledge you need to solve that problem, you're going to get on the job, basically.
I really like that. Definitely your classes will teach you how to think critically. And I think that's something that's super crucial. And we often take it for granted. But for me, my research topic is kind of like left field of engineering. So it's about like the social interactions instead of like the technical, like, let me go build this robot. So a lot of the skills I learned in class that applied to like the research ended up being like the social skills. How do you interact with like peers? How do you interact with faculty members? How do you write a technical paper? Yeah, I was like, writing engineering, what? So a lot of those like softer essential skills are what was transferable into my research position.
Next up, we have a question that a lot of you already answered, but if you had more to add, now's the time. In what ways were your internship and research experiences different from your classes?
I think that classes can feel really competitive, and it's, you know, like you're always kind of competing with your classmates, whether you're doing it intentionally or not. But when you get to industry, from my experience at least, everyone wants to help you and everyone wants you to grow. And I found that, you know, like everyone really wants you to ask them questions. They want you to learn as much as you can and get as much as you can out of it from the internship. And so that was something that was really cool and that I liked.
Yeah.
I know from, go ahead, Meyer.
No, I'm sorry.
No, you can go.
Okay. Yeah, no, Maya was right. I did kind of answer this question a little bit in my previous answer, but I'll add something different. I think something that was different is that in classes, a lot of what you're doing is kind of like it's a lot of coding. Like you're given a question, right? And then you have to answer it, and then it's kind of just focused on that. But like when you're working, it's a lot more. There's like a bigger picture, right? Like you're part of a team, you're working on a project, and like there's a lot more that goes into it. Like for example, at Amazon, we have like design meetings where we discuss the design of like what we want to do, right, for a project. And there's a lot of like just different non-coding related like things that you need to set up, like the environment. There's hundreds of different like tools and stuff that you need to work with. So it's not like just like, I mean, I guess one thing that's nice about classes is that you do have to set up your environment, right? So it teaches you the basics of that, right? Like depending on the class, a CS related class, you might have to set up a certain program or type of software to be able to run your code, right? So it's basically that, but on steroids, at least from my experience, right? So yeah, that it's like it brings up the scope of what you're working on to like something small, like a small little problem, to like something more like application oriented and team oriented. Also like what Sarah said, it's really nice that instead of like you're in competition with your fellow students, like, so people don't necessarily want to help, and obviously like academic integrity is a thing too, so you're not always necessarily able to help each other as much as you'd like, right? Because you're responsible for your own work at the end of the day. But when you're in work, you can ask people for help, and they're willing to share their code, and like you're working on the same code, so it's not like considered plagiarism if you adapt like something that your coworker's working on that applies to some other area of you know, another project, and it can apply to your project. You can use that, right? So that's something that was really nice about an internship, that you can like bounce like your work off others as well.
So I am kind of going to go off of that idea of like finding help. So for being a student for 16 plus-ish years, you've always had someone who you can go to ask your questions, who were like more experts at a topic than you. So like TAs, professors, but for me, I had a lot of autonomy in my project because it was my own individual project. So when I had questions, I would go to like my graduate mentor and be like, hey, this and that. And she'd be like, Lily, you are like the master of this topic. Like you're the only one in the world researching this right now. Like you are the only one with the answers. So I had to become very resourceful with asking the right types of questions, finding the right resources to answer my questions and to progress my research. But it was something that was quite unique and a bit of a shock when she was like, you are the master now, like you are the all in terms of this topic. So yeah, that's something that definitely was different in terms of just atmosphere and having that autonomy and just like, yeah. But there was a lot of support throughout the way, which I think is quite unique, especially with the competitive nature that comes with like engineering, especially in the classroom setting. Over here in the research realm, they tend to have a lot of resources and a lot of like emotional support in terms of like words of validation and affirmation that really helped me feel more confident in my work.
I mean, also internships like very less stressful than classes because, you know, we do have deadlines that's coming up, but it's not like weekly things where, you know, we have homeworks, we have exams, and another thing is I feel like for classes, I mean, no one's really telling you to do the work, right? It's really for your own benefit and for your own learning. But however, at an actual, you know, job, you are doing it for a client and you're kind of doing it for your company's, you know, you're doing it for the clients. So I kind of felt you have to kind of learn more about that personal like social skills. I mean, obviously engineering is also important, but when you get to an actual internship, that social skill also kind of is needed, you know, something that you don't really have to have in the class setting.
Okay, our next question is, what were some challenges that you experienced and how did you overcome them? Did you guys ever deal with imposter syndrome or were you ever like intimidated by these new experiences?
I think at this point, imposter syndrome is just like a given. So I will say like my first engineering internship this past summer, I had really bad imposter syndrome. There were 3 of us interns and the other 2 guys were like the smartest people I had ever met. And so I really felt like I didn't fit in. But over time, I guess I kind of, I saw what I could accomplish and I kind of heard feedback from like my supervisors and everyone kind of telling me that I'm on the right path and I was able to figure out problems on my own. I think that really kind of helped me build my confidence. So it's really normal to feel like that when you first start and to feel like, you know, you're the dumbest person in the room, but I promise that you're not. You got that internship or that position for a reason. And you're there to learn and to build on, you know, your own skills and that's how you gain confidence. So yeah.
So for me, since my research position ended up happening in the comfort of my own room, I had small interactions with like my graduate mentor and my primary investigator, like 1-hour meetings. And since there was a time difference, there was always like a delay in terms of like me producing my work versus them like being able to give me feedback. So that was one of the challenges I had to overcome because they were 3 hours ahead. But it ended up working out where I had to like shift my schedule a little and it kind of aligned with like their work hours. But one thing that being stuck in my room kind of like facilitated in like the worst way possible was this idea that there was this pressure for me to be perfect at what I was doing. And literally no one was putting that pressure on me. It was me perceiving that pressure that caused this to happen. And my graduate mentor one time, she noticed that I was so antsy and just like, I wasn't being myself. So she had an honest and open conversation with me being like, Lily, you are literally doing amazing. This is your first time doing this type of research. I think you need to be more compassionate with yourself. So that definitely helped. And then later on, my graduate mentor and my PI learned that I, as a researcher, need a lot of more like vocal like affirmations and like, hey, you're doing really great. Like, look at how much progress you've been making. Because they were taking that for granted at first and were not being as vocal about how well I was doing in my position. So once they learned that, I think they were very accommodating to my needs. And yes, I'm sorry if I say PI. PI is primary investigator, and that tends to be the faculty advisor for different research topics. But yeah, those were some of the challenges I was facing throughout my position.
I can go next. I actually didn't have any challenges with like my coworkers or my boss. Like they were very friendly and always supporting. But one challenge I had was just with myself. Because when you first go to work, you feel really dumb. You basically kind of don't know how to do anything. And you're kind of sitting at your desk like, what am I doing right now? Like, what am I supposed to do? Right? I mean, that's why your coworkers are there for and your boss is there for. I mean, I made a lot of mistakes. And, you know, I felt really down at some point. I was like, am I even an engineer? Like, can I even be an engineer? Right? But I think it was just like the help I got from them and just me reaching out to them was really important. Yeah, I mean, that's how I overcame that personal problem.
Yeah, I think I kind of resonate with pretty much everything that's been talked about, right? Like the imposter syndrome, as well as like the self-perceived or like the self-imposed like pressure, as well as like not knowing anything. Like it's like 100% probability that you'll go into the job not knowing everything you need to do prior, because you don't have that experience. Like it's impossible, right? Like that's why experience is so valued, right? And that's why when you start, you'll be joining as like entry level. So you will have to ask questions, and you won't know everything all the time, and that may like that may pose like some challenges in terms of like you may feel like you don't belong, or you may feel like you don't know anything, and you might have high standards for yourself, right? Because we're like we are all at UCI, we're trying to be excellent students, so of course we have high standards for our like our intellectual selves, I guess, right? So like I mentioned prior, like when I went into Amazon, I think the important thing I had to realize is not that I don't know anything, but like how much I don't know. So like it's kind of like your ceiling is super high because you have so much that you can learn, right? So like you shouldn't let it be like as a deterrent that, oh, I don't know anything, like I feel like I don't belong. You should use it as like something to excite you that, wow, there's such opportunity to learn so much, right? Like, and actually I do like it's nice that my internship was only for like a couple of months, but it would actually been really nice for it to continue onwards as well, because like it just like the amount of time you spend learning is good, right? Like the experience you can get through like working is really, really nice. So that's like why after I graduate, I plan to like go straight back into working so that I have more of an opportunity to get that experience, right? In terms of imposter syndrome, I definitely felt it. I always had this idea like I'm like doing okay, but I could be doing so much better, right? And someone else in my place, or someone smarter in my place would probably get this done. Like maybe I got it done in 1.5 days. Maybe they'll get it done in 1 day. So maybe they won't take me as like a return offer because there's someone better suited for the role than me. That's like something that was playing on my mind throughout my internship. And I felt a lot of pressure that, oh my God, I'm not going to get a return offer. I'm not going to get a return offer. Then when I actually got like my return offer and I got feedback from my coworkers, like, no, like we thought like everyone on the team loved working with you. Like you were super good, right? And I was like, oh, wow. I guess I did earn that, even though I don't feel like I did that much, right? It's kind of weird. So don't doubt yourself. Just keep like, if you feel like anxious, just keep keep working at it, like keep trying, and like it'll hard work always does prevail. Like even if you fail, like you'll learn. Like I think something nice, like a saying that I liked from Amazon a lot was fail fast. Everyone's gonna fail. You're not gonna succeed the first time, but if you fail fast, then like you get an opportunity to learn from that mistake, right? Because everyone's gonna fail, and you shouldn't use fail, because in school, if you fail, it's a bad thing. Like we've been like taught for like 20 years, like you can't fail, you have to get all A's, right? But like it's okay to fail at work because you have time to like learn from your failures and make perfect, right? So that is how you overcome the challenge of failure.
That was a very good response, Numaira. Appreciate it. Okay, this question is a little bit similar to the unit question that we had in chat earlier, but how do you balance student and internship/research life?
I am bad at that. Like today I have a 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. day. So personally, I've learned a little bit about my limits. Currently I have like 2 on-campus jobs. I'm doing research and I'm taking 12 units. It's a lot, but I'm learning like, okay, I need to like reduce my hours, or okay, I need to manage my like casual time better, in terms of like, okay, when am I going to do some self-care? When am I going to hang out with friends? Especially being in that senior life, it's like, oh, my friends, they're leaving soon. I'm leaving soon. But Google Calendar is like my life, and like I use it religiously. So if you are able to do that, yeah, GCal, get on it. Sometimes my friends and I will randomly send each other calendar invites and being like movie night, and like we accept it. So that has really helped me a lot. And over the summer, what really kept me within that like 9 to 5 hours is the fact that my mom would like come up and be like, it's dinner time, you're done. Or my graduate mentor would be like, I'm not responding over the weekend, so you can't do work over the weekend either. So they kind of kept me in my like boundaries and help like reinstate the fact like you need to have balance in your life. But yeah, it's hard, but you learn as you go through it.
I mean, yeah, I completely agree with you. I currently am taking like around 18 units, and then I have like 2 board positions for different clubs, doing one technical project as the project manager, also interning right now. So I just basically am full with classes, work, projects, and meetings. So I did have to give up a lot of my personal time. Like, it was inevitable. I could, if I wanted to succeed in every single thing I'm doing right now, I had to either give up one of the things I'm doing or really give up my own personal time. So I chose to give up my personal time and kind of focus on my future, right? I mean, it's really personal. It's really like depends on you, like depends on what you want to do. But if you want to take on more position and kind of grow more while you can, I think it's a great opportunity for you to kind of give up, some of your gaming time, some of your, watching Netflix time. Like you can give up on those and, really focus on the opportunities you have right now. Because those opportunities won't come back to you. Like the board positions, your projects, like you're never gonna get those after you graduate. So just utilize those materials that you have at school. And then, in the future, it's gonna pay off.
Yeah, I think this is something I kind of learned the hard way this week, actually. I just started my internship like last week, so this is my 2nd week going in, and so now I have an actual full schedule where I'm just doing something for every hour of the day. And it really hit me yesterday, where I was just completely exhausted and I couldn't get anything done basically. So I kind of had a moment where I was like, okay, there's too much on my plate. I need to like take a little break and rework my schedule so that I have time for myself. And so something that someone told me was if you're gonna have things throughout your day, schedule like an hour during your day where you're doing something fun for yourself, and kind of force yourself to not be productive, but in a way you are being productive because you're taking care of yourself. So, make sure you take breaks, make sure you schedule your day the way, in a way where you're not constantly doing something, and don't try to multitask 24/7, because I promise you it doesn't work. I learned it the hard way. It's horrible. Don't multitask a job and school and research and all that all at once. It's not fun. But yeah, definitely take care of yourself, and give yourself breaks.
My answer to this is kind of boring. I don't currently do an internship. I'm just a student. And I guess I have like a couple of obligations or like involvements on school, but I'm not nearly as hardworking as any of these three. I'm balancing both an internship and research while also being a student. I when I when I did my internship, it was just the internship. I just like a 9-to-5 job. So I don't really have to balance school on top of that because I didn't take any summer classes. It was just balancing work-life balance at that time, right? So it was nice because I low-key during school, I hadn't had very much structure because especially during the pandemic, I had a lot of remote classes. So I didn't really need to like be on from 9 to 5 necessarily doing work consistently. I can like choose my hours, right? Technically during like a remote job, you can also choose your hours, but I did bring more structure at the time that like, okay, I should work during this time, to like, just keep yourself in the like in the mental that, oh, I'm doing my work during this to this hour, especially like when you have coworkers who you can ask questions, right? So just setting a routine that, oh, I'm going to work from this to this time. I'm going to take a break towards the end, especially where my day did not end at 5 p.m. My day sometimes ended at 10 p.m., 11 p.m. But eventually you have to remember, you have to eat. You have to like be ready for the next day too, right? So you can't like, I mean, I know we're accustomed, like if you're a CS major or even an engineering major, whatever major you are, you probably have late nights where you're working on projects. And sometimes, I don't know, it depends on the person. Some people like pulling all-nighters to finish the projects. Not me personally, but you can't do that when you're working. So yeah, definitely balancing that. But yeah, no, these three are so hardworking. Like, I cannot imagine doing 18 unit. I'm doing no internship or research, and I'm also doing 12 units. So like, yeah.
Okay, thank you all for your very thoughtful answers. That concluded the moderated questions. So now we're gonna move on. We're gonna open it to the audience for the Q&A session. So feel free to unmute yourselves, or you can type in the chat any questions that you guys would have.
Hello, I have a quick question. So regarding research, I'm doing some research on how to get into research opportunities. And one of the advice I received was that most research opportunities open up in fall. So is that true? Is there a time period per se that that is more suitable for applications than other time periods maybe?
Are you looking for on-campus research opportunities?
Yes.
Awesome. So it varies depending on your professor who you want to have as your faculty mentor, and it also depends on who is under their lab, because sometimes they're limited in terms of funding. Sometimes they have people who are graduating in the spring, and all of a sudden people leave vacancies in their lab. So it really depends on the PI and what their lab is doing. But I would definitely recommend looking at like during the big cusps of the year. So like summer, people are already graduating, so usually there's some vacancies. Maybe like week 0 of fall is a good time because you're starting to transition, coming back into in person, or they're coming back to like their labs. And then like early winter tends to be a good time too. But honestly, I think if you are interested in someone's lab, just reach out and ask questions and have that informational interview, because you never know if they suddenly have like an opening because a student was like, oh, this quarter I can't work on this research project anymore. and then they have like this open vacancy. So I don't think there's like a prime time, but as long as you're reaching out and showing interest, the professor is going to keep you in the back of their mind and be like, hey, in the case that they do have any openings, they'll reach out to you if they don't already have some right now. Also, sorry, if you are interested in summer research opportunities, right now tends to be a great time to look for them across the country. There's lots of summer undergraduate research fellowships or like Europe on campus, which provide opportunities for you to work with individuals in different states and different universities, and across different topics that may not be like specified within UCI. So something to look into. Most of those applications tend to close around like mid-February. So if you're looking for like a summer research opportunity, now is like the prime time to apply.
There are a couple of questions in the chat. I guess I'll answer the freshman in CSE. What should you start doing? I would say look out for ICS 46, look out for ICS 161. Those two classes are the most important classes that you'll take in your undergraduate CS education if you're interested in that type of internship. If you're interested in more computer engineering related internship, I like personally EECS 112 and EECS 112L. I thought those classes were really important. Aside from classes, I would just recommend exploring different projects, different opportunities outside of the classroom, like maybe your own project, or there's certain clubs on campus that like I think one of them is called Micromouse. There's different clubs that you can explore to see like their different projects and like get involved basically with that stuff. And also LeetCode. LeetCode is very important. Just practice LeetCode. If you practice LeetCode from now for the next 2 years, you'll get internship, promise. There's another question. In job interviews, how much does senior design hold compared to internships? Does anyone have a good answer for this question? Senior design versus?
Yeah, I can kind of talk about this a little. So my first research experience on campus was a senior design project. It was a Mechie project when I joined as a chemie. So that was like my very first ever engineering experience, and for a long time that was the only engineering experience I had on my resume. So I think what it really is about is how you kind of convey what you did on that project. If that's the only experience you have, just kind of play it up a little and talk about what you did specifically, how you contributed. So for example, like my team, someone did SEM, and when I would talk about it in interviews, I would say, yeah, like we did SEM and we kind of analyzed the data we got from that, even though I specifically didn't do it, but I was a part of that process. So just kind of like playing off of all the different things that you did in that. So don't be too worried if you don't have an internship experience yet. Just focus on looking at what you have done in your classes and kind of building off of that and kind of figuring out like what skills you learned from that and how you could apply it to the position that you're applying for.
To answer Ian's question that says, how should I go about looking for internships between now and into the summer, especially as a mechanical engineering major? Definitely start looking at the types of positions you are interested in. A lot of the time, like Handshake gets saturated with like internship positions throughout the summer and the fall quarter, especially throughout like the career fair time. So keep that in mind. Maybe look at past position descriptions and then start tailoring your resumes and finding kind of like front load your work now. In terms of like bulking up your resume, there are projects that you could join, like senior design projects through MAE 93. I did that my sophomore year for a biorehabilitation robotics lab, and it was super helpful. And I was like under the wings of some senior Mechies. So it really helped my understanding of the design process and like design review. That was a concept I was not used to. So that's an option you can do on campus. I think ASME has some like project teams. So they have projects within the student organization that you can start working on. And that helps you get those like personal projects and group projects to add to like that project section in your resume. And if you have any personal projects you find online that use like an Arduino to make a small robot, if that's what you're interested in, like take a video of that, post it on your LinkedIn and have it on there as proof that you are doing your personal projects, or add it to your website or engineering portfolio if you want to go that route too. So take initiative, look at different opportunities. There's lots out there to prepare and to bulk up your resume. So hopefully that helps. Also, if you are into biotech or like the BME side of Mechie, sometimes those internship applications open right now. So like applied medical tends to open around February time for summer internships. Same with like Nuvasive and I don't remember another one. But look into that if you're into that side or that specific field. There's definitely like a rolling basis sometimes when it comes to internship positions.
It never hurts to apply. The worst they can say is no. Well, the worst they can say is nothing if they don't ever get back to you, but it doesn't hurt to apply. Yeah, like I said, the first time I started applying, I only had like one research experience and it was enough to get me a job in a chem lab. So, I mean, it's just about how you talk about yourself and about how talk about your skills. And if, and definitely just convey that you want to learn and you want to gain as much experience as you can. They tend to like that as well. So it is 100% worth it. Don't undersell yourself, and yeah, like the worst they can say is no.
And sometimes like resumes and portfolios don't come in as important, because I mean, it might be kind of for civil, but when you like actually go to like career fair and actually get to talk to them, they kind of pick you with your soft skills as well. So if you talk to them, with confidence and interest, even though you don't have the skills or a great resume, they can still hire you. It's a very high chance.
Also, if you are, sorry, I just want to add this little quick topic or niche advice. If you are in like engineering student organizations on campus, don't be afraid to reach out to alumni, because a lot of the time they get like bonuses for recruiting individuals. And if they know that you have something in common with them, like being a part of AICE or Society of Women Engineers, they can give you like a reference, and that can sometimes help elevate your like brand and who you are and how you are coming off to the company. So don't like take advantage of your network. I definitely think that is something we take for granted, and people have connections, and people in these powerful positions can make way for you to have these opportunities. So take advantage of that.
I have a quick question regarding research. What do you think is the most important skills that people require to do research?
I will say for me, the one thing that the professor whose lab I joined really liked was just my determination to accomplish my goals. He didn't really care about what I was bringing to the table. He just wanted to know that I was going to work hard to accomplish what I wanted to do. So as long as your interests align with what they do in their lab, that's really all they look for. They're going to take your word for it when you say you're hardworking, because the fact that you're applying says that enough. So just make sure that you're doing what you want to do, and it'll work out eventually.
Yeah, for me, one of the biggest things my primary investigator said, she was like, Lily, you have so much like charisma and I can tell you're passionate about this topic. So why wouldn't I have like allowed you to be part of my lab? So definitely when you speak to like a professor that you're interested in doing research under, or maybe even a grad student you want to do research with, show that you're passionate, show that you did your research and know what they're even doing research about. That way they know like, okay, they are going to be resourceful. They're going to be taking initiative in the lab, and they see that you already have those skills and you can apply that within like your research position. One thing for me specifically, because at the end of my program, I was able to write a research paper, and then we transferred that and translated it to be a conference proceeding or a conference paper. Writing skills, as engineers, we take it for granted, but like learning how to write technically, if that is something that you're interested in, like in terms of being published, comes in handy a lot. And I think I definitely took it for granted. I'm like 39C, yeah, I took that class. And then I sat down to write this 20-page paper. And then I was like, right, a literature review. What even is that? So that definitely came in handy, learning how to write technically. I was going to say something else, but I forgot. Yeah. And also just have a lot of patience with yourself. A lot of self-compassion. I know it's a skill that might not be something that you're just like putting it out there for your professor, but just knowing that you have boundaries is very critical for you to be a successful researcher.
This isn't related, but I just want to say that like I feel like as STEM majors, we have this sort of mindset that we have to be doing something all the time in order to be like successful. And I think that we really do need to take a step back and like redefine what successful means to us. It doesn't mean it doesn't necessarily mean having like a 4.0 GPA and like doing like 5,000 different things. So if you don't have an internship yet, or you don't have a research position yet, don't take that to heart. There's not like a set timeline for when you need to do everything throughout your undergrad career. Just yeah, like Lily was saying, be patient with yourself. Yeah, like just keep applying, keep doing what you're doing, and eventually things will line up and you'll get that one job that you want. You just have to be patient. There's no timeline to anything like this.
Also, another thing, I know Numira mentioned this earlier, but sometimes it's just a numbers game. And when it comes to like applying to internships, a lot of the time you have to get comfortable with rejection, and you have to not take it personally, because sometimes you are just a number. You are not like, they don't know who you are. So being kind on yourself in terms of like getting those rejections, or even being ghosted by a company, like just know it has nothing to do with you, and sometimes it's just the volume of applicants that they're getting on their end. So keep that in mind.
Okay, so we are going to be here for a couple more minutes if anyone else has any questions, but really quickly, just wanted to put this up here. This is just a slide with a few resources if you want more information about internships, research, or other career needs. As I mentioned, we are going to be sending out a recording, but if you'd like, feel free to take a screenshot.
Jonathan, are you currently in your internship position alongside being a student?
Yeah, I'm currently working about 14 hours a week.
Okay, I have a question for you. Do you ever feel like you are more interested or invested in your internship job than you are in your classes? Like, have you lost interest in the course material because you're like, I'm already like in a full-time position or emulating what I would be as a working professional? Do you ever just like lose that motivation in terms of your schoolwork?
I mean, even though okay, first of all, yes, that's a fact. Like, you do lose motivation you know, I mean, you see how much money you're getting and like compared to how much like work you put in at work compared to like school. I honestly think you put in more work in school than like you have to do at work, but there isn't like a feasible rewards in front of you. And that's kind of the thing that could make me lose interest in school. But I mean, that doesn't mean like I stopped trying, because you know there's always more to learn. But yeah, it's there. It exists.